Considering home security? Consider this. For 140 years, ADT has helped stop more crime than any other home security company. The yard sign isn't just a sign, it's a line in the sand. It's no wonder 5 times more people choose ADT to protect their homes. Visit ADT.com to learn more. For license information and terms and conditions, visit ADT.com.
The weekend is me winning.
Here we are. We are back in better than ever. Mike and Mike, presented by Progressive Insurance. Our guests on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. A Monday in October, and things are starting to round into form. The World Series begins tomorrow. The first college football rankings are around the corner, and someone's school is waking up the echoes.
Hey!
And, of course, a full football Sunday in which a 40-year-old man continues to be the best player in the NFL. All that and a whole lot more. Good morning, Olney.
Good morning, Greeny. It was a wonderful weekend, wasn't it? Just a fantastical week.
I had no complaints because I was in the money. I know immediately where you're going. Golick won our DraftKings pool this week.
That's not what I'm talking about. I was talking about Notre Dame.
Notre Dame just beating the pants off of USC.
Me winning another DraftKings is just another weekend. It's for as much as I win. Actually, it was the first.
I think it was the first time that you were in the money the entire season.
The only person not in the money is Darius. Now, he was on Friday because his new album came out. You weren't here. And,
I see all the songs on the array over there.
Yeah, Trey was ripping both of us because Darius and I were the only two not in the money, and I got in the money, and Darius isn't. But as we said to him, you know what? You're going to be okay. The entertainment thing's working out.
The $20 a week he can somehow manage to swing. But all kidding aside, we were just saying right before the Open rolled that your team and several other factors ruined my Saturday night.
Yeah.
I had a very busy couple of days, so I cleared out the schedule. I'm sitting on the couch. I got the clicker working, and none of the things that
Three things to go to: Penn State, Michigan, Notre
Blowout.
Dame, USC,
blowout,
and the Yankees Astros Game 7.
The Yankees failed to score a run.
I mean, I agree with you. So outside of me sitting at Notre Dame Stadium, which now with the new stadium and all these stadiums getting Wi-Fi now, and I have my big iPad that I have, I can watch the other stuff, and it was the same way. I'm like, nothing really to see here. Not a lot. Just keep watching, Notre Dame bury USC, but I wanted to be entertained somewhere else, and I wasn't. It was a bummer because I was the same as you. You thought there was going to be some really, really good matchups.
Yeah, Saturday night did not go the way we wanted. Sunday was very interesting. Let's go off the top to start things on this busy Monday morning, and the big star of the NFL day yesterday, among many, was Zeke Elliott, who had over 200 yards from scrimmage, Mike. So in what has been something of an up-and-down season in a variety of different ways for Zeke Elliott, he broke out against the winless Niners.
Yeah, career-high 219 scrimmage yards. It was very impressive. He now has 22 touchdowns in 21 games for Dallas, tying the most touchdowns for a player's first 21 games in the Super Bowl era. The others to do it since 1966, some names you'll know: Billy Sims, Marcus Allen, Eric Dickerson, and Edgerrin James. Third player in NFL history with multiple games of 200-plus scrimmage yards and 3 touchdowns before turning 23 years old, which includes Adrian Peterson and Clinton Portis. So the main thing is those are numbers, and numbers are fine. But you're right. With all that's going on with this guy, that's the thing. You can get the facility. We always talk about the game, but even what's going on with him during the week in the hearings, you can go to the facility and you can get lost in there. That's your world in there. He can practice. As you hear Jason Garrett say, he's a professional from that standpoint. We know he has had certainly some issues outside of the facility, but all you heard inside is he works. Does his film study, works out, practices really well, and that's what he can do there. He can just let everything else go by the wayside, let other people handle it, and concentrate on what he needs to do.
And if they could play San Francisco every week, everything would be fine.
Definitely helps.
There are 2 winless teams in the NFL still with them and the Browns.
Off the top.
Also, we got some managerial stuff in the baseball. The Red Sox hired Alex Cora as their manager. That was announced yesterday. And then late in the day, the Mets found their manager as well.
Yeah, they did. Certainly, you started out with the Red Sox hiring Alex Cora. He's going to continue to be the Astros bench coach throughout the World Series. Spent 4 years here as a baseball analyst prior to serving as the bench coach, third ever Puerto Rican-born baseball manager. But he will stay during that. And the Mets are going to hire the Indians pitching coach, Mickey Callaway. Callaway spent the last 8 seasons as a pitching instructor for the Indians, last 5 as their pitching coach. So already hires being made there, but Callaway obviously can go right away since the Indians are out. But Cora, he'll have to wait and then assume all those duties after he sees if his team can knock off the Dodgers or not.
So a little spate of baseball news before we get to the World Series tomorrow. By the way, we'll have Rob Manfred live
Off the top.
tomorrow. The commissioner. Okay, that didn't take long.
Yeah.
The Phoenix Suns fired their coach yesterday.
Everything's solved right now, right? Get Earl Watson out of there. He's the problem. Earl, you're fired. We should make a run now. I mean, are you kidding me? I mean, seriously, it's tied for the second fastest coaching change in NBA history.
Was that D'Antoni?
No.
How many games did D'Antoni last in L.A. that one season? That's what I was trying to remember the other day.
He's not in the top 4 here.
Okay.
The worst is Dolph Schayes lasted 1 game in 71 with the Buffalo Braves. Then you have Earl Watson for the Suns with Chick Reiser from the Baltimore Bullets. Both, and that was back in 1952, 3 games, and Mike Brown with the Lakers in 2012.
That's what I was thinking of. It was Brown.
Yeah, 5 games.
Mike Brown.
He lasted 5 games. But there you go. 3 games. This should solve it all for the Suns. I mean, talk about what did you know going into the season? I mean, seriously?
They're in a total rebuild. Eric Bledsoe is on social media saying he wants out. That's a complete mess
off the top
of a situation. Notre Dame. Hey, hold on, I have the song.
Woo!
Which is better? Is the fact that Notre Dame has played its way back into, let's call it what it is, has played their way back into a position where they control their own destiny to get into the college football playoff, which they did. And the other thing they did was they knocked USC and probably the entire conference, hopefully out of the conference football playoff, which was sweeter for the Notre Dame alum.
Well, boy, you know what? That's a great question because there is something to beating USC, but knowing you've ruined their season.
They're done. They couldn't afford another loss. They lost.
When Mike and Jake's senior year, they beat USC in their last game, and that gave them the last win they needed to get to the national championship game. So it's one thing to beat your rival, but then to beat them and have meaning behind it, whether bad for them or good for you. Overall, Oklahoma, Notre Dame, and Penn State are 3 college, obviously have great history. It's been a while since they were all relevant. Sunday's poll marks the 82nd time that Oklahoma, Notre Dame, and Penn State were all ranked in the top 10 of the AP poll. But the first time since what? 1993.
Okay.
1993. So that is very cool to have Penn State, another big one against Ohio State, Notre Dame against a ranked team this week in North Carolina State.
Oh, that's a great game.
Game Day chose to go to Ohio State because, of course, that's what Herb Street wanted because he went to Ohio State. Where do you go, Herbie? We'll come to Notre Dame, real school.
Where is that game this weekend? Is that game at NC State or is that Notre Dame?
Notre Dame?
It is at Notre Dame.
Yeah, Game Day could be at Notre Dame, but they're going to Ohio State because that's what Herbie wants.
They were already there this year, too.
Yeah, they were already there. They were just in Penn State. Penn State going to Ohio State. But, Herbie calls up, whoever he calls up, I want Game Day at Ohio State. I want Game Day at Ohio State.
Why are you laying this on Herbie? Why are you all of a sudden doing this?
All on Herbie. His fault. And his fault. I'm kidding. Not his fault. By the way, really quickly, we're going to talk about this. Josh Adams, the running back for Notre Dame, needs to be in the Heisman talk.
Oh, dude, all of a sudden you're interested in the Heisman.
Listen.
You who never stop ripping the Heisman, you hate the Heisman.
It's a ridiculous award, but if you're going to give it out every year, this guy deserves to be in the conversation to get this ridiculous award.
Okay.
How about that? Did I justify it?
All of a sudden, that matters. And then finally, we get to Sunday in the NFL, and listen, what Tom Brady is doing is ridiculous. I don't take back a word that I said before the season or anything. Eventually, this has to stop. It just can't keep going, but it doesn't appear to be happening anytime soon. He is right now playing the position better than anyone else. Obviously, the injury to Aaron Rodgers is a significant factor in that, but Tom Brady is the best quarterback in the NFL right now.
Correct me if I'm wrong on any of these, Hembo. I think he's on pace for 66% of completion, just over 5,000 yards. I think 34 touchdowns and 4 interceptions. It's somewhat ridiculous what he's doing. And from the game last night, since they outscored Atlanta in the Super Bowl when they were down 28-3, they basically outscored Atlanta 48-0 or something like. Since that point, it's been ridiculous. And for Atlanta, blocked field goal, missed field goal, they had a goal line stand against them. They just do not look anywhere near like the team they were last year. And all of a sudden, that defense, especially that secondary for New England, paid extremely well.
And that is Off the Top with Mike and Mike, brought to you by Dollar Shave Club. Upgrade to shaving with a fresh blade whenever you want for a fraction of the price. Join DollarShaveClub.com today. The stat that you're looking for is from the time it was 28-3 Falcons in the Super Bowl, from then until now, the Patriots have outscored them 54-7. 54-7.
At one point, it was 48-0, then 54-7. Okay,
correct, and they came back and won because they were winning at one point 28-0.
To nothing, right?
Last night, 20-0.
20-0, right.
Last night, and they came back from 28-3. They wound up winning at 23-7, and again, Brady's numbers continue to be just ridiculous. But last night, in what was a real pea super in Foxborough. I mean,
yeah, it was.
The fog and everything.
Oh, easy with the fog. I've been in a fog game. That wasn't fog last night.
Right,
okay,
comparatively,
that was a little bit of mist.
Fair enough.
All right,
compared to what you saw on the banks of
or what I didn't
Lake
see
Michigan,
Chicago at 88
in a playoff game. But one way or another, the Patriots they are rounding into form. It really is, and it reminds you that you feel like an idiot now for having said anything about them. Early in the year, I was watching them and thinking, my goodness, they look so vulnerable, and they did. And here they are a couple of weeks later. Now, the Falcons just aren't that good. The Falcons should have lost to Detroit and should have lost to Chicago. But all of that, I mean, two of the three games that they've won. But even having said that, the Patriots are rounding into form. Their defense looks a lot better, and they ran the ball 36 times last night.
They did.
36. Forget the 162 yards. Just that they ran it 36 times. They're so balanced right now. The Patriots look like they are rounding into exactly the team we thought they were going to be.
Held the ball for about 9 minutes more than Atlanta. And when you're up 17-zip at halftime, you certainly can go to more running in game. But you normally would say that, but with the Patriots, sometimes that's not true. Sometimes they keep throwing that short pass. But they did run the ball. He threw it 29. They ran it 36, as you mentioned. No interceptions, though. He did throw the one interception, a bad pass into the end zone. But there was a roughing the passer call. Again, don't hit Tom Brady, wrong.
Now, there were some of those all over the league yesterday.
It's just hits that look so normal now, or look so normal, are just not normal now in the NFL. And listen, I've screamed about it for years. It's not going to change. And it bums me out a little bit that some hits that just look like normal hits now. I don't mean the vicious ones. I understand they wanted the game, but I still say it's gone too far the other way, and a lot of it is on the quarterback, and some of those were yesterday, I think, including that call. But, you have to deal with it, and you have to know as a defender. I think it's tougher and tougher, but there was roughing the quarterback on that, so the interception was wiped out, so he didn't have any interceptions last night. But I look at their defense. I mean, this is supposed to be an explosive offense in Atlanta. It hasn't been as much this year, but that defense is the worst pass defense in the league going into that game. They were the worst in the league.
This was the first time they didn't give up 300 yards passing in a game.
Exactly right. And they played better. There's one thing you can expect your guys to play better, and they did. Schematically, when you're covering Julio Jones, you cover him up close. You have help over the top. You know that, so you can play it a little differently. So schematically, you can help. But the guys were playing better as well, and that's what you thought. You heard some of our former player defensive backs say there was communication issues in the backfield that they could grow into a bit. I know Rob Ninkovich came on and said it could take a while to get that chemistry, but it depends. If you're veterans and you could work things out and get communication going, physically you're a pretty good player, and when you start to play better, and they seem to be rounding into that right now. Now, by no means are they a great defense. They played really well last night. What they need now to do now is to show consistency there.
And so the Patriots, with a big win, the Falcons in the Super Bowl rematch with a chance for revenge, fall very, very short on the road on a Sunday night. Let's take a listen to what some folks had to say afterwards. Here's our Louis Riddick watching the Patriots play and very impressed with what he sees.
The system is tried and true. Okay, the players, quite honestly, were messing up the system, meaning they weren't taking what they learned in the classroom, then what they practice, and then taking it to the game. And primarily it was about communication. Mm-hmm. Less was more tonight. They lose two starters. They put in two guys who maybe not as talented, all right, and Jonathan Jones and Johnson Bademosi, who go into the game, but they do it the right way. They do it exactly the way they're taught to do it, which means being physical at the line of scrimmage, having no communication errors. They mix in a little bit more zone along with the man. And the results are exactly what they are.
So that's what you see. You see the difference from as Lewis said, from the classroom onto the field. Guys just flat out, number one, playing better, which they needed. You feel you had the talent to do that. And then schematically, Patricia is an excellent defensive coordinator, so he's going to figure it out as well. They'll all work together to figure out. You can't keep them down forever there. And they played well, again, against a team that is struggling. No doubt about it, but you got to start somewhere, and they hadn't been doing a good job, and they did last night.
What do you make of the struggling? Let's focus on that for a second.
Yeah.
This is the Falcons' offense that has basically all the same pieces they had a year ago.
They do.
They got Ryan, and they got Julio, and they got Sanu, and they got Freeman, and they got Coleman, and they got all these names that you know. Now, of course, Shanahan left, and they got Sarkisian there. Can that have made that much of a difference? Is the Super Bowl hangover that real of a thing? The Patriots entered the game last night as the worst statistical defense in the NFL, and they were 30th in points allowed, 30th out of 32 teams, and they gave up 7 points. and they were pitching a shutout into the fourth quarter against the Falcons. So, Mike, did that tell you more about New England's defense or Atlanta's offense?
No, I mean, listen, well, we've been seeing that out of Atlanta. They haven't looked that good. You mentioned a couple of games that they easily could have lost. So I was waiting for the New England defense to round out into form a little bit, and that's what they're starting to do. Atlanta, I know Sanu has been nicked up. Julio Jones has been nicked up, but they were out there. You're out there. You're ready to go. That offensive line we talked about being solidified last year when they got Alex Mack. So they got the same running backs in Coleman and Freeman. So I'm a little surprised at what's going on. So and you asked the question. Could an offensive coordinator, could he make that much difference? The play calling, the relationship of coach and player of Kyle Shanahan, who was the old coordinator, is now in San Francisco, and Steve Sarkisian taking over now. Could it make that much of a difference? Obviously, it's not one thing. It's a combination of things. But when something like this is going on, you're like, oh, well, they have this injury or that injury. Well, they don't. They got the guys out there. So like the Packers where Aaron Rodgers is on the sideline and, both the offensive tackles are missing time and you're missing guys on defense. These guys are out there. Now, Beasley had certainly missed time for them on defense, one of their best players on defense. But offensively, we're talking about 343 total yards, 7 points. I mean, that's so uncharacteristic of this offense. And if they don't have an offense that's doing this, they're not going anywhere. I mean, I felt horrible about keeping them out of the playoffs in my preseason picks. It's actually looking pretty good now the way they're going.
Well, that division is crazy because Tampa, they gave a game away yesterday in Bob. I don't want to say it that way because the Bills
are a good team.
Yeah, I mean, you fumble a kickoff on.
I'm with
whatever.
You.
Tampa is a huge disappointment. How does Carolina, with 11 days to prepare for a game, go to Chicago and basically get blanked? They scored 3 points in Chicago
3 points.
yesterday. They lost a game. Did Mitch Trubisky, how many passes did he complete?
At one point, he was 3 of 6, and I think it was in the third quarter.
No, he only completed ridiculous. 4 passes. He only attempted 7 on the whole day, and they lost. They got killed.
They had the ball for about 2 minutes in that game. They had the ball for 21 minutes. Carolina had the ball for over 38 minutes in that game.
So the team that's emerging in there is New Orleans. New Orleans are winning games in a row like crazy. They're getting pedicures today. Did you see that story, by the way?
Yeah.
They're celebrating with pedicures.
They were
my kind of team.
The first, I knew you'd like that. They were the first ones to play a Aaron Rodgers-less Green Bay Packers this year. And, Brett Hundley, we all knew was not going to be Aaron Rodgers, and they're going to have some growing pains with him. But New Orleans is playing well. You are getting out of that offense what you think you would if the defense is going to play a little bit better. That's what we talked about, and that's what they needed. The two backs, and Ingram has himself a game. Kamara, who they like, with Adrian Peterson not taking any of the carries now, not like he was getting a lot anyway. You got to like what you see there. I mean, you're really doing for sure. How about Chicago? I've never, now again, we go to the DraftKings and what we play. I have never in my life, when you got to pick a defense, I picked their defense. I don't know why. I just kind of had a good feeling about Chicago's defense.
I'm stunned that you did. I would have thought Carolina was going to roll all over them.
Chicago coming off a win, going for 2 in a row. They're at home, and I thought, okay, they gave me 30. I've never seen a defense give 30 points in fantasy.
They had 2 long touchdowns.
Yeah, it was unreal, but they played well. But I'm with you about Carolina. That was stunning, and maybe even the most stunned is New Orleans sitting there atop the division.
There were 2 games yesterday that did not feature a single offensive touchdown, the Titans and the Browns, which, I mean, you could sentence felons to watching that game. It was so brutally bad. And then Panthers-Bears, which is a crazy game. Put that previous one back up there. This is amazing to me. Trubisky had 4 completions. He's the first non-injured starting quarterback to win a game with fewer than 5 completions since Tim Tebow in 2011. So, I mean, you look at it and you say, for the Bears standpoint, yeah, they won. Good news. Certainly, obviously, a couple of wins in a row, and that's good to see. It's not because they're an offensive juggernaut or anything like that. But anyway, the point of what we were saying a minute ago is the good news, if you're Atlanta, is you're not out of it yet, right? You're not out of
you're not.
The contention in that division, especially because the Bears dropped 2 touchdowns and gave you in week 1, and Golden Tate I keep saying Golden. It was Golden Tate.
It was Golden Tate. 6 inches short.
Yeah, was 6 inches short of a touchdown, and 8 seconds got taken off the clock, and they didn't get another chance to beat them. So Atlanta stays alive in that NFC South.
Think about it. You had 3 shutouts yesterday, and you had 4 other games where the losing team scored under 10 points. There's some not some.
It was
great
a bad
offense.
day. Yeah, it was not a terrific day of football all around the league. Mike and Mike presented by Progressive Insurance, comparing rates to help you save. Now that's Progressive. Call or click today and find out how much Progressive could save you. I have a pretty good trivia question for you here that Hembo just sent over as a stat. I'll throw it out out as a trivia question. Tom Brady is on pace to lead the league in passing yards this season. If he does so, he'll be doing it at the age of 40. He will be the oldest quarterback ever to lead the league in passing yards. Can you tell me who is currently the oldest quarterback ever to lead the league in passing yardage in a single season? No Googling. Maybe you've seen it yesterday. Maybe you didn't. We have the answer to that question coming up in just a moment. And also coming up, I will explain to you the following. When is a loss clearly a win?
Home isn't just a place. It's a feeling that you're safe to enjoy the things that matter most. ADT lets you take that feeling with you. Whether you're at home, your business, or online, we help keep you safe. With security systems, home automation, alarms, and surveillance. So you can feel at home wherever you are. Go to ADT.com to get that feeling for less than $1 a day. ADT. Home. Safe home.
Hey everyone, Mike Golick here. Support for Mike and Mike podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Chances are you're confident when it comes to your work, your hobbies, your life. Rocket Mortgage gives you that same level of confidence when it comes to buying a home or refinancing your existing home loan. With Rocket Mortgage, you can apply simply and understand fully so you can mortgage confidently. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/Mikes. Equal housing lender, licensed in all 50 states, NMLSconsumeraccess.org number 3030.
All right, you were nodding like you knew the answer. You had seen it already.
I had known it actually before that.
Tom Brady is on pace right now to lead the National Football League in passing yards this year. At the age of 40, if he does it, he will become the oldest quarterback ever to do it. Currently, the oldest quarterback ever to lead the league in passing yards was
Warren Moon. Well, I think it was just over, 3,800 yards, I believe, was the...
That's not what I have, Mike. The answer to the question is not Warren Moon.
Wait, at 40 years old? I just read...
No. The oldest quarterback to lead the league in passing yards.
Oh, I thought it was 40 or older.
No. Not the most passing yardage by a 40-year-old quarterback. That is Warren Moon.
Right.
But the oldest quarterback to lead the league in passing yardage in a season.
I misunderstood the question. So the question that I answered correctly.
Okay, fair enough.
Warren Moon.
I'd like to hear that argument with a college professor.
I tried this I tried it with teachers a couple times. I thought the question was different. I would like at least partial credit for this answer.
Professor, I do believe I deserve partial credit considering
right.
I answered my own question correctly.
Yes. The question I thought you were asking, I felt I answered at least partially correct.
Would you care to take a guess at the answer?
No, I don't care now. I don't even know the question anymore.
The oldest quarterback ever to lead the league in passing yardage in a single season.
I don't know.
It's Fran Tarkenton.
It's got to be Fran Tarkenton.
It's Fran Tarkenton in 1978. At the age of 38, Fran Tarkenton led the league in passing yards, and that remains the record to this day. And Brady may not wind up leading the league in passing yards, but I wouldn't put it past him.
But you know what he's going to do? He's going to pass Warren Moon for the most of the passing yards 40 or older.
That seems like a lock.
Woo! Right on the button, I hit that one.
I don't know what in the world is going on with that. I mean, the fact that he is 40 years old and still playing at this level... It is. We are seeing a new era. I mean, we are going to. I don't take back what I said. He's not going to do it 5 more years. There's just no way.
But I don't think he's going to do it 5 more years. I said 3 years. That was my number.
This year keeps talking about 5 more.
I know. Yeah.
But what I will say is, we are now seeing with the changes in a variety of things. I guess workouts and nutrition and others. Plus, I suppose I have to admit, as begrudgingly as I will, the concept of resting and other things. I think we have to reassess what we consider to be old in sports now. I mean, guys like LeBron James, who in the most athletic of our sports, is approaching an age now where we'd say, well, he's got to start hitting the backside. Maybe not. Maybe it isn't the case anymore. Maybe we're going to see these guys at their physical peak a little longer than we've been expecting.
Here's one thing I'll add to it. Kind of the way the game is right now. You look at a guy like Kobe who was playing well, and then all of a sudden, what ended up costing him? Injuries, right? You start getting injured.
He blew out his Achilles.
Yeah, you start getting injured at that age, and it's tough to recover anyway. But at that age, it's even more tough. But what's the difference now? And I'm going to say this, and I don't want it to take away what's going on. But there's 2 things: they're protecting the quarterback more than they ever have. And he's a pocket passer.
Yeah.
That's a huge thing. You're not going to see that. What do you not see out of a running quarterback? A long career. He stays in the pocket. He gives himself up. when all looks lost for that play to come back and fight another play. So you look at the guys that sit there and say they want to play a long time. Eli has said that. Eli, though he's certainly struggling from the position, he's a pocket guy. The guy that would be interesting to me, Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers, and now way younger. He's way younger. I sit there and say he's 33, 7 years younger.
He's way younger than Brady.
Than Brady. So how long can he go? Because he runs and he moves and he does things on the run. Brady doesn't. Brady keeps himself in great shape. He's a pocket guy, and they protect the quarterback more than they ever have. He's got a lot of things going for him. The most things going for him is the fact that he's the best quarterback to play. That certainly helps with the decisions he makes and winning the ball and making those smart plays. But it is impressive with what's going on with him.
As this season, certainly early part of the season, he's been getting hit a lot, though.
He has.
Is the one thing. For a pocket,
18 times he's been sacked.
And
already.
Hit a lot.
A lot more, yes.
So that does, you would imagine, start adding up at 40 or at any age.
Yeah. Agreed.
We'll see. Right now, he's playing as well as he ever has. We're Mike and Mike, presented by Progressive Insurance. Jam-packed guest list today. Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. We'll look ahead of the World Series with Buster Olney coming up off the top of the hour. We got Jeff Saturday and Booger McFarland, Donovan McNabb, and James Franklin, head coach of Penn State, after the shellacking they put on Michigan, but no rest for the weary. They get Ohio State this week, and game day is going there to Golick's chagrin.
Way to go, Herbie.
All right, in a brutal day of injuries yesterday, one of them, and I don't mean to belittle a person being hurt, but one of them, one loss, was clearly a win. And I will frame the story in the following way. For the life of me, I have no idea why Jay Cutler has been the Dolphins' starting quarterback this entire season. They've been historically bad on offense, unimaginably bad on offense. And from the moment Matt Moore set foot on the field yesterday, they looked like an entirely different team. For those of you who didn't see it, the Jets were beating the Dolphins 28-14 yesterday, and the Dolphins came all the way back. And I can't prove this, but I would bet you everything I own that if Jay Cutler doesn't get hurt in that game, the Jets win.
And I wish they would have, because that was my nerd pick. I picked the Jets over Miami. So
I mean, and look, there's so many different things that happened in that game that frustrated me that I don't even want to start. But let's focus just on that here.
Yeah.
I mean, look, I know Adam Gase likes Cutler, and I know that Cutler knew the system and everything else came out of retirement. But he's been awful. Their offense has been awful. They've been winning basically in spite of their offense the last couple of weeks. Yesterday, the minute Matt Moore walked on the field, and again, I don't know, Mike, you would have to tell me whether if the defense is preparing for one guy, that a new guy comes in, it changes things up, whatever it is. They were an entirely different offense with Matt Moore on the field yesterday than they were with Cutler. They look a million times better, forgetting all of the body language and everything else.
Right.
Moore is a fiery guy and all the rest of that. They're just better. So that loss was a win. Cutler's going to be out a couple of weeks. I can't see any way in the world he winds up their quarterback.
I would be
again
stunned.
This year.
Let's see how Matt Moore plays. Obviously, Matt Moore is going to get the opportunity. I mean, yesterday was 13 of 21, 188. It did have an interception in the game as well.
Fault. The interception was not his fault.
It was not. A couple of touchdowns as well. So I'm with you. If he plays well, there's no way. By the way, they're 4-2. The Buffalo Bills are 4-2 and New England's 5-2. So if Matt Moore is playing any kind of significant quarterback, there should be no doubt. I know, the old adage, if you don't lose your job to injury, that's been gone by the wayside for a while now, especially when, Jay Cutler was not the original guy anyway. Remember, it was Ryan Tannehill, if those that want to go all the way back. It was missing the season. That's why Cutler is even there. So I'm with you. If Matt Moore shows any kind of life for this offense, there's no way they can go back to Jay Cutler.
Ryan Clark was talking about it with SVP on SportsCenter last night.
The injury to Cutler is what for the Dolphins?
The best thing that's ever happened to the Miami Dolphins organization.
Whoa.
Period. They were undefeated. They were wrapped by Mercury, all that.
Okay.
Absolute best thing.
I'll bite. Why?
Because now you have a quarterback who's engaged, a quarterback who cares, who's efficient, who understands this team, how you want things run, and he makes plays. Listen, he threw for 188 yards today, 2 touchdowns. He brings you back into a game which your other quarterback essentially was trying to throw you out of. You have Jarvis Landry, you have Kenny Stills, you have a good running game. He's the type of quarterback you need.
One of the differences, too, you see the ball go down the field more. Jay Cutler, he has the arm to get it downfield, and we get him into trouble at times. Don't average in 5.5 yards per throw. Check it down where Moore is going for 9 in the time there, 9 yards. So we'll see if that keeps up again now that he's going to take over the starting role. We'll see how efficient he could be. But, I know the whole feel of the offense, and they talk about Cutler and the attitude and stuff. And certainly, if you're not playing well, that can be a drain. But they were 3-2 going into the game. They were above 500, so they were right there. It's still right there for them. But it just does seem more. It just seems different with Moore out there. It does. So everyone, you said that. Ryan Clark said that. I get it. But now Moore's got to go out there and do something, okay? He's going to have the chance in the next couple of weeks because Cutler's going to be out. So he's going to have to prove that he should be the guy. And if he does, if that offense is more efficient, there should then at that point there should not be any hesitation by Adam Gase at all to say, we're just staying with this guy.
Yeah, look, there's a reason that he's never been anyone's full-time starting quarterback. I'm not suggesting that he's going to make you forget about Tom Brady, but boy, he's a 1,000 times better than what they had going into that. And the way the Jets lost that game yesterday was so unimaginable that I have to keep reminding myself they're not good, because, they're just not a good team. They stripped it down to the studs this year. Yep. They're just trying to paste something together. And Josh McCown, did you see the interception he threw at the end of that game?
I did.
I mean, that's something that, look, if like a rookie, if a rookie who had never played in a game before in his entire life threw that pass, you'd bench him, right? For a guy who's 70 to throw that pass yesterday was unimaginable. I mean, I'm not upset at the Jets, at the coaching staff or anyone for making the decision to try to win the game with 47 seconds left and 3 timeouts because you have a veteran quarterback who knows the one thing you can't do in that spot is throw a pick. If it's not there, fall down and play for overtime. For him to just throw the ball up in the air like that an interception that could have been fair caught is one of the great brain cramp moments that you've seen from a smart veteran that you'll ever see in your life. That was one of the worst plays I've ever seen.
That was a bad one. Okay, you might be over-embellishing.
No, one of the worst. Yeah. It was one of the worst. I want you to say that. I'm not going to a break until you say it.
No.
Say it's one of the worst plays you've ever seen.
It's not one of the worst.
It is one of the worst plays you've ever seen.
It was a bad one, though. There's no doubt about it.
I'm telling you right now, it's one of the worst plays you've ever seen. You've seen some bad plays, but that was the worst one. Mike and Mike brought to you by Upside. Now save big on travel. Get a big gift card with every trip you buy. You will love Upside.com. That's Upside.com. People liked it when I ranted last week about the call, so I'll rant about this. I don't believe that they should suspend the quarterback for that. I believe that they should bring legal charges against him. I think it's not inconceivable.
But don't take him off the field because God knows who you're putting on the field.
Well, listen, if you're putting him on, listen, whatever. That was yes, you're correct. If you're going to put Hackenberg out there, then he'll do that in the first quarter instead of with 47 seconds left, and you won't have to bother with a 14-point lead. All right, what else have I got here? I got injuries all over the league. Yeah. I got tweets. I got the baseball World Series and all that still to come here.
Let me throw one in. There is a backup player that went in that will be part of a trivia question.
We'll see if you get the right trivia question. I don't mean the answer. Let's see if you get the question right this time.
God knows. No, it probably won't.
As we continue. Buster Olney coming up off the top of the hour here. Lots of Twitter reaction to a variety of different topics we'll get to. But let's begin here, Mike, by paying tribute to a guy whose streak came to an end yesterday. And everyone will remember Cal Ripken's streak, and that will be remembered longer, and a bigger deal will be made of it than Joe Thomas's consecutive plays streak. But Thomas's streak might actually be the more impressive one. To be out there for literally every single offensive play, 10,363 plays, is one of the great accomplishments we've ever seen in sports.
It really is. That was a shame to see. As soon as you saw the end of that play, you saw him go down and grab. I thought it was his elbow, or it was up in his triceps. It looks like the way he went down and grabbed. And listen, you play that long, you've gone through some pain. And the way he grabbed his arm, he was in a lot of pain. He said after the game he has 0% use, and he was even saying, listen, give me 30 to 40 to 50% use of it, and he'll go out there and try and play. But he said, I can't use it all. And he looked like he was in pain. That's stunning, because the trivia question will be, if you want to hit that. Since 2007 for the Cleveland Browns, who was the first left tackle to go in other than Joe Thomas? That's going to be the name. From 2007, gang, when he was a number 3 pick overall out of Wisconsin, he has been at left tackle every single play. As Greeny said, 10,363 plays. We had him on right when he passed 10,000.
Yep.
And the name of the guy that went in is Spencer Drango. That's going to be the name. That
great name.
Who took? Yeah, he was a 5th rounder a couple of years ago out of Baylor. But that's what he's good. He's the first guy to take a snap at left tackle for the Cleveland Browns since 2007. It's crazy.
Yeah,
it is just crazy.
The quarterback at the time when this injury took place yesterday was Cody Kessler, who was 13 years old the last time they played a snap without Joe Thomas on the field. That's not the only significant thing about Cody Kessler being in the game. Because maybe you're thinking to yourself, I thought DeShone Kizer started that game. And you're right.
He did.
He did. But once again, they pulled him. He threw an interception at the end of the first half. He threw an interception at the beginning of the second half. And they yanked him out again. So let's make this Straight Talk brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. Best phones, best networks, no contracts. Because Hugh Jackson, the coach, said he didn't even know at the time that he made that decision about yanking him out of the game, about the video that shows that DeShone Kizer was in a bar late Friday night into Saturday morning. Now, Kizer himself said afterwards when he was asked about it and was told there was video of it, look, I was at the facility preparing for the game before that, and I was in the facility on time preparing for the game all day Saturday. Mm-hmm. I'm not here to talk about my personal life. It doesn't make any difference where I was on Friday night. And maybe he's right. I would ask you that question here. You have a rookie quarterback who's clearly struggling, but in his defense, he's on a terrible team. I mean, an absolutely terrible team that obviously has no idea what. I didn't think things would get worse for Cleveland than they were, but they have. So having said that, does it make any difference to you that he was in a bar late Friday night?
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't make one bit of difference to me. But he's going to learn that he can't, that from the optics standpoint, that's probably not the thing for him to do.
So in that regard, it almost does make a difference.
Well, for him in optics, I'm talking about in the locker room, his teammates, it does. No. Again, for those, kind of the way the week works, kind of Thursday night is that night where a lot of players will go out. A couple days before the game, certainly players will go out on Friday night, especially the single guys will go out on Friday night. They've gone out because Saturday is basically it's a walkthrough day. And depending on when you have to go in, I think for the Browns it might even be late morning, early afternoon.
Early to mid-afternoon.
Yeah. So, I mean, normally we would have to go in the morning. When I played, it was always in the morning on Saturday, but these guys not till the afternoon. So guys are going to go out. So no, that doesn't, and I know we went through this with Manziel, but don't even start making the comparisons just yet, okay? About the going out and flying to Vegas and doing all that, admitting that you're not looking at the playbook or studying the playbook when you're a backup as to what Kaiser's doing. So Kaiser's been benched twice, so he's the one that has to deal with that. Do we sit there and think that he doesn't know the playbook because he was out? Now, a lot of people say, well, he got caught on video this one time. Does that mean he's been out before? I don't know that. But if you're telling me a player was out at 1 or 1:30 on a Friday night when they play on Sunday and they have to be at the facility at the early afternoon, I'm not going to be shocked. Nor are any players in that locker room going to be shocked. But because you're the quarterback and the starting quarterback in the NFL, the optics of that, they're going to lay it on him. They're going to lay it on the coach. Hugh Jackson already pulled him aside and talked to him about that. So that's something DeShone Kizer is going to have to learn to say, you know what? It's absolutely my right to go out. Other guys go out. I should be able to go out, but maybe it's not a good idea for me to go out. But me personally, don't care.
Straight Talk Wireless, nationwide coverage on America's largest and most dependable 4G LTE networks. Bottom line of it is, whether it's out Friday night, in Friday night, or anything, I mean, he's in, then he's out. Then he's on the field, then he's off the field. Then Kessler's in there, then Hogan's in there, then he's hurt, then he's not playing. I mean, this is ridiculous.
Absolute mess.
Ridiculous.
Which all seems to be leading to them drafting another quarterback next year, if you ask me at this point.
Buster Olney from the World Series off the top of the next hour. We're busy with Mike and Mike on a Monday. Stay right there.
Hey girl, have you done something new with your scales? Using new moisturizer? Nice. It really brings out the hazel in your eyes. Oh, hold on. Are you using whitening strips too? Your fangs look good, girl. Really good.
A really charming snake charmer? Surprising. What's not surprising? How much you could save by switching to Geico.
Wait, what? Have you been doing Pilates too?
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or...
Pennzoil Synthetics with Pure Plus technology makes this the time for performance. Winter is here, but with cold start protection and excellent performance in extreme temperatures, Pennzoil Synthetics keeps your engine purring, so you'll know winter is here isn't as ominous as it sounds. Visit Pennzoil.com and make the switch today.
Here we are, and we're going live to LaGuardia Airport shortly.
Nice.
As Buster Olney will join us. I'm told he is in the quietest place he could find at LaGuardia Airport.
Where is that?
As he makes his way, isn't he going to L.A.? How do you get to L.A. from LaGuardia? All the nonstop flights are from Kennedy. I'm almost positive. I'll get to the bottom of this.
Not going to lie, I have no idea.
I'm telling you right now. I'm
you
pretty
fly
sure
out to New York way more than I do.
All right, let's find this. You know what? In fact, I'm so curious. I'll save all my tweets and everything for a minute from now.
Okay.
We are Mike and Mike, presented by Progressive Insurance. The World Series begins tomorrow. Tomorrow at this time, we'll have Rob Manfred on the program. But right now, we're pleased to welcome Buster Olney live to Mike and Mike as he gets set to fly out to Los Angeles. He's on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Buster, are you at LaGuardia?
I'm at LaGuardia right now, yeah.
And how are you getting to L.A.?
You know, there are things called connecting flights, and I'm using a connecting flight going through Detroit today to get to LAX.
But why would a man of your enormous stature be connecting when there are these delightful nonstop flights that you could be on? I don't understand this, Buster.
Maybe I'm not quite at the stature that you are, Greeny. That could be the case.
Well, I mean, I in fact, I think as a result of this conversation,
I feel we need to go to battle for Buster.
So
this
do
is
I.
Ridiculous you have to connect.
Although I will say this, there's a lot of good things to eat in the Detroit airport.
The Detroit airport is fantastic right now.
Anyway.
See, here's the other factor about that, too, guys. Since I'm Jose Altuve's height, okay, I don't really worry as much about you guys as whether or not you're in first class, connecting, and all that stuff, okay?
Who are you kidding? You tower over him.
All right, Buster is with us here. We'll get to the World Series stuff in a minute, but we have a lot of other stuff to start with as the other teams around the sport sort of clean up some of their business, and we have a couple of managerial, well, actually more than just the two. Let's start with the two where we have a little bit of certainty now. We have the Red Sox finding their man and the Mets finding their man. Take us through those.
Yeah, the Red Sox hire Alex Cora, of course, worked with us as an analyst for years. He's now the bench coach of the Houston Astros. He'll move on to the Red Sox at the end of the World Series. Alex is someone who played in Boston. He's got experience in the Boston market, so that'll work well for him. I think the big question about him is he's never been the star of a team. He's never been the major face of a team. So it'll be interesting to see how he'll handle that high-pressure market. Mickey Callaway is going to be the next manager of the Mets. Look, it's unusual to see pitching coaches name managers, but, during the course of this process, I said to Terry Francona, the Indians manager who's worked with Mickey in recent years and just raves about him, that Mickey has a personality that seems to transcend that difference. I said to Terry, he seems much more of a position player than a lot of pitchers are, and Terry looked at me and said, I know exactly what you're talking about, and I completely agree with you. He's very structured, very organized, and I'm sure that appealed to Sandy Alderson. So he's there, and the two other, sort of the surprising situations that might loom first in Washington, Dusty Baker out. That's a shock around baseball. The ownership there has gone through a lot of managers. They'll be on their 6th and 10 years, and good luck trying to sell that job to the next person because you're basically telling that guy, look, we're not going to pay you very much. You have to win immediately, and there's a job that has incredible pressure. And then we're all waiting to see what happens with Joe Girardi and the Yankees. I told you a few weeks ago, it wouldn't surprise me if these two sides part ways. His contract is up right now. We'll have to see how the negotiation goes.
Whoever replaces Dusty Baker, what a note. It's going to be Bryce Harper's 4th manager in the big leagues, and he turns 25. He turned 25 last week. That is amazing. But
can I ask about that? Why did that happen, Buster? Because the first thing, when I saw that news, the first thing I thought of was the press conference with the mold in the air conditioning, as ridiculous as it sounds, but that whole thing turned into such a little bit of a fiasco. But then Strasburg came out and pitched a great game, so it didn't seem to make any difference. Why did this happen in Washington?
Yeah, and it was a surprise because during the year, Mike Rizzo, the Nationals general manager, said repeatedly that he expected that Dusty would be back. They actually negotiated during the season on an extension. They didn't get it quite across the finish line. But I think this is a classic case of what have you done for me lately? And so even though the Nationals won 192 regular season games the last 2 seasons, 192, the fact that they lost in the playoffs, they had that Strasburg fiasco. I know people in the Nationals organization blame that on Dusty and his mishandling of it. Maybe all that changed the perspective of the owners. As I say, one big factor always with the Nationals owners is they do not like to pay their managers. They've had guys walk away because of the fact that they don't like to pay their managers.
So looking at the Yankees, do you think it will be more the Yankees want Joe back, Joe doesn't want to come back, or the Yankees don't really want him back and Joe wants to? And, oh, by the way, let's throw Brian Cashman in there. Isn't his deal up as well as far as whether he's going to be back or not?
Yeah, Golick, Cashman's deal is up. Now, every time that he's had a contract, it's played out like this. He gets to the end of the contract. He has a very strong relationship with the Steinbrenners, with Hal Steinbrenner, and I would expect that he's going to be back. on the Girardi thing, if I were to guess how it's going to play out, I think it's going to come down a lot to negotiation, where if Joe goes to them and says, look, I'll come back, but I want a significant raise over the $4 million that I'm making, at that point, I'm going to be really curious about the Yankees' reaction, because if they feel like internally that, look, we're not going to pay you, $6, $7, $8 million. We're not going to pay you at the top of the marketplace. At that point, I wonder if Joe will make a decision, and it'll sort of be a mutual parting of ways. It definitely felt like that this relationship had started to reach an expiration point earlier in the postseason.
I agree with you, but then the way the Yankees, the players on that team, rallied around him in that Cleveland series after the terrible game that he had on that Friday night, and it was so obvious to me and so genuine how badly the players wanted to pick up their manager. I thought that spoke volumes. And if you look at this incredibly young team that everyone acknowledges is ahead of schedule, if you're not going to pay Joe Girardi that much money, my question would be why? Why would you not be willing to pay him what the elite managers, the top-level managers in the game make? He is one.
Well, I think that's, first off, it depends on the perspective of Hal Steinbrenner or Brian Cashman on how they assess managers. So many front offices today that are steeped in analytics don't believe that the managers make that much of a difference. That one manager making $4 million is not that much different than a manager making $2 million. And I think that this decision could hinge on that question. How do the Yankees view Joe Girardi? Do they look at him as being one of the one or two or three irreplaceable managers in baseball, and we got to have that guy? Or do they, the managerial position is one where, hey, whoever drops into this team right now with these young players is going to do pretty well.
Buster Olney live with us from LaGuardia Airport. Be on the lookout for him in the Detroit airport in about 2.5 hours. In the meantime, let's talk about Justin Verlander, who spent the beginning of this year and the entire beginning of his career in Detroit and now finds himself the star of the Houston Astros and the MVP of the ALCS on his way to the World Series. And you sent us a note saying you had a great story about Verlander.
Yeah, I talked to him the other day. This was during the games in Yankee Stadium because, of course, in Game 2, he was so phenomenal. His fastball up to 98 miles per hour. He's 7 scoreless innings in Game 6 later to help keep the Astros alive and on their way to the World Series. And I asked him that when he struggled in 2014 and his velocity was down, was he worried? And he looked at me and said, "Are you kidding?" And he told me a story about a game that he pitched in Pittsburgh on August 11th of that year. And during that season, his fastball velocity was down as low as 86 miles per hour. He'd had some injuries. And in that game in Pittsburgh, he lasted 1 inning, 40 pitches. Brad Ausmus, the manager, took him out of the game. The two of them argued, and Verlander said he went behind the dugout, and he said, "I just lost it." He started bawling because his thought was, you know what, my career as a power pitcher is over. And that's how deep into his slump that he was and how unsure he was at that time. During the off season, he looked around and talked to people about restructuring his body and how to use stretching. And the next spring, when he was on the mound for the first exhibition game, he threw a pitch that he said felt really good coming out of my hand. And as he told me the story, he said, "Look, I'm getting goosebumps right now thinking about that moment." When he turned around and looked at the scoreboard, it said 95 miles per hour. He said, "That's when I knew I was going to be able to come back."
Wow.
It's a great story.
It is a great story, and now he's got a great shot with his new team, the Astros. So let's go through it. Start of the World Series tomorrow. Let's go to the 3 areas. Break them down for us. Let's start with starting pitching.
Well, the one thing to keep in mind in this series, the Dodgers, rightly so, really took advantage of being in their position as number 1 seed because when they faced the Diamondbacks pitching was all jumbled from the wild card game. Robbie Ray had to be used in relief. And the Dodgers blew through the Diamondbacks. Then they faced the Cubs, and the Cubs pitching was in complete shambles because they had to scramble to get through the Nationals in 5 games. That's not going to be the case in this series. When I talked to A.J. Hinch before Game 7 of the series between the Astros and Yankees, he said, look, our dream scenario is that we get through tonight without using Dallas Keuchel, without using Justin Verlander, and that's exactly how it played out. So the Astros have Keuchel lined up in Game 1, Verlander lined up in Game 2, Charlie Morton, of course, threw very well the other night for the Astros in Game 7. So I think it's kind of a pick-em in terms of starting pitching between the Dodgers and the Astros.
All right, let's go to bullpen.
Big advantage for the Dodgers. And, look, Kenley Jansen has been unbelievable. On the other hand, during the course of the American League Championship Series, A lot of questions pop up about the Astros bullpen. I do wonder if Lance McCullers' dominance out of the bullpen in Game 7 will give them the inspiration to continue to use him into that role. Guys, the other night in Game 7, he finished the game with 24 straight curveballs. He's got the best curveball in baseball, and he just kept going at the Yankee hitters with that pitch. Incredibly effective. You wonder if you'll see A.J. Hinch use McCullers in the same way that Francona used Andrew Miller last year, as being the guy who just gets you through the toughest part of the lineup and the toughest part of the game.
And then hitting?
That, too, I think is a pick-em. Now, I am going to be curious about the Astros hitters, who clearly in those games in New York, they dealt with a lot of anxiety. George Springer, Alex Bregman, Josh Reddick, they all expanded the strike zone so much. They got better in those last 2 games in Houston, but that's something they're going to have to deal with at the outset of this series. The Dodgers, on the other hand, boy, their lineup is so deep, and they have so many guys who throw out great at-bats. I will say this. Before Game 6, I was talking with Jose Altuve, and he mentioned to me, he looked at me and said, look, whoever wins this series is going to have an advantage over the Dodgers. And I said, well, what do you mean? And he said, the Yankees get through us, and then they'll have known that they came back against Cleveland, they came back against us, they're going to ride that momentum. And then he smiled. He said, if we win today and tomorrow, then we're going to have known that we came back from the edge to beat the Yankees. We'll have been playing, we'll be on a roll. And the one thing to say about the Dodgers, they've had a great October. They have not really been tested yet. And on the other hand, the Astros will be riding their momentum going into the World Series.
All right, Buster, who wins?
I got the Astros in 7. I know the Dodgers are going to be heavily favored, but just having seen them and having seen the advantage they have with their crowd, seeing how well Verlander and Keuchel are throwing, I picked them. I think Clayton Kershaw is going to be absolutely the pivotal figure in this series. Can he go out and throw 2 dominant games and beat Keuchel in Games 1 and 5?
We shall find out. And again, Buster Olney will be a huge part of ESPN Radio's coverage of the World Series, which begins tomorrow night. All right, Buster, there's a Mediterranean place in that Detroit airport that I like at the hummus plate. You will thank me, I promise.
I'll be looking for it in my 36-minute layover. Because unlike you, when you have first class and nonstop flights, I'm going to have to be running from gate to gate.
Boy, I hope you're not landing in A. You have to go to C or B or the other way around. You're going to have to hump it, my friend.
Yeah, thank you.
All right.
Good luck, Buster. Thank you very much. That's Robert Stanbury, Olney III, brought to us by Indeed.com. Post your next job opening on the world's #1 job site.
It's a great breakdown. Pitching, he's got Pick'em. Hitting, a Pick'em. Bullpen, big advantage to the Dodgers, but he's got the Astros in 7, which would mean they're winning on the road, right? So, I mean, that would be something. I saw that last year a little bit, didn't
Yeah, we saw it last year with the Cubs. And look, we had a terrific World Series last year.
Yep.
I think there's a chance for this to be a fabulous World Series as well. You know what someone said to me yesterday? The storyline of Houston doing it for the city. Remember, we had A.J. Hinch on when the Astros were playing their home games on the road and everything right after the horrible flooding and everything else. That as far as the national broadcast have been concerned, it really hasn't been as much of a storyline as you might have thought it would be. Right. But I think it becomes one now is can they bring a championship to the city, after all that city has gone through. And you've got the Dodgers, who are obviously a heritage franchise, and the Astros, who a lot of people are still getting used to the fact that they're in the American League. So hopefully it sets up to be a great World Series. We look forward to it, and you'll hear every pitch of it right here on ESPN Radio. Mike and Mike presented by Progressive Insurance. Our guests on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Back to the football here, Mike, and you mentioned Spencer Drango will be the answer to a trivia question someday, sort of the opposite of Wally Pipp or whoever. I don't remember who played third base the night that Cal Ripken sat in that Sunday night game against the Yankees anymore.
That's right.
But Spencer Drango was the guy who came in and played left tackle after 10,000-plus snaps for Joe Thomas for the Cleveland Browns. And it occurs to me, Spencer Drango sounds like the villain in a Liam Neeson movie.
It's a great name.
That's a great name.
Great name.
If I should ever be in like a thriller, write a thriller, I think that the villain is going to be named Spencer Drango.
Drango's close to Drago, of course, from Rocky IV.
Spencer Drango.
Spencer Drango is a very cool name.
By the way, Ryan Miner was the third baseman for the Orioles that night that Cal Ripken finally decided to sit down. All right, and speaking of the Browns, there are 3 unimaginably bad teams in the NFL right now. Just as you watch the games, it's it's hard to believe in a sport where everything is supposed to play out as equally as it does that things were this easy to see coming. But the Browns are winless, the 49ers are winless, and the Colts have only beaten those two teams.
Right.
And yesterday the Colts got shellacked at home by Jacksonville without Leonard Fournette. So there are some, we could talk a lot about the good teams in the NFL. There's some terrible football to watch every Sunday.
Yeah, there is. And you thought your Jets were going to be one of those teams, and
they're not terrible.
The fight for the quarterback is going to get interesting because all of a sudden the quarterback everybody wants to fight for, it was Darnold. Who knows if he'll even come out? He is struggling.
So you saw him in person Saturday night. What did you take away?
And I saw a lot of his play this year. There are times he throws the ball, and you're like, wow, okay. Dude can throw it. Dude can wing it. Dude can put it on the money where he needs to. But he just makes some bad reads every now and then that you just kind of scratch your head about, and some bad throws. So I mean, if it's one of those where, and we've seen it time and time again because, these top quarterbacks, it's basically a 50-50 shot going in the first round, that if you like a guy enough, you'll talk yourself into it and say, the things I like about him, I can expand on him to cover up the things I don't like or that we don't see well with this guy. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know, but even with Rosen, who I like the way he throws, Allen, the kid from Wyoming, I do like the way they throw. Rudolph, the way he throws. Boy, they had a tough game as well. That at Texas really
and low scoring.
Absolutely right. Baker Mayfield, you like the way these guys throw and lead, and Mayfield running all over the place.
But Mayfield is not a guy who's going to be in that conversation.
Right. So you look at the guys, the throwers, and you know what? It hasn't been like, oh my gosh, boy, you get any one of those three, it's going to be fantastic. There's questions where you're kind of going, okay. There's a number of players, if you include Mason Rudolph in the three that make it a foursome there, that just say, boy, there could be some depth there. But there's definitely been a lot we've seen on video and in person that I've seen where you kind of question a little bit what you're seeing.
Okay, so then just for fun, let's go through that exercise briefly here. And we're not even halfway through this season yet, so we don't know with certainty who's going to wind up down at the bottom of the standings, but we have a reasonable idea. We have a reasonable idea that the Browns and the 49ers are going to be right near the top of the draft, right? It seems inconceivable with both of them sitting at 0-7 right now that they won't be somewhere near the top of the draft. The Giants are unbelievably 1-6. So they also figure at this point to be somewhere near the top of the draft. And the Colts, who are 2-5, and again, their 2 wins are against the winless. They haven't beaten anyone who has beaten anybody else this season. So if those 4 teams, if they all wind up picking right near the top, where are the quarterbacks going? Are the Colts trading out? Are they trading out of that spot?
Oh, yeah, they're not picking a quarterback.
Okay, so
there's
they're
no
going
way.
to trade out of that spot?
They'll try desperately to trade out, yes.
Well, I don't think they'll have any trouble trading out, right? I mean, unless Darnold doesn't come, if Darnold stays in college.
And he's already said he would, before the year he's staying, but don't buy anything until after the season.
Yeah, so are the Browns going to draft a quarterback this time? This is a team that has now passed on Carson Wentz and Deshaun Watson.
If you look at them right now, the way they're going, you would think they're absolutely going to draft a quarterback. They've used all 3 already. At some point, I'll say again, because Cody Kessler, they're all of a sudden not going to say Cody Kessler is the future of this team or Kevin Hogan is the future of this team. It's on Deshaun Kaiser. So at some point, Kaiser will go back in the lineup. I don't think there's any doubt about that. And can he show enough to where they say, yes, this is what we're going to ride going forward, or we're going to draft one early, and if you draft one early, put him in there, and let's see where we go.
How about the Giants?
That's the million-dollar question. 1-6 right now. Certainly, Eli has talked about playing, long, more of a time than you would think, just like Brady has. But where are they going right now? I mean, all their receivers, it's so tough to judge on this year. All their receivers are gone. Evan Ingram is completely taking advantage of the situation. He's become the main go-to guy.
They weren't winning when those guys weren't hurt.
Nope, they were not. So you wonder, is it time
and
for
they weren't
change?
Scoring points when those guys weren't hurt. They weren't scoring points last year when they were winning games.
Is it time to make that move? I think maybe at the very least they draft one, but keep Eli, and kind of see where it goes, and knowing you could sit a guy for a year or two. Possibly, but I think the Giants have to think long and hard about that. Quite honestly, I think they'll be thinking long and hard about their head coach as well.
Oh, yeah.
So
there are a lot of changes that you can see coming on the horizon in the NFL. We'll see how much of it plays out over the regular season before the season even ends with regards to some of these, and the rest will take care of
Here's
themselves.
what I want to quickly say about the quarterback position and what's going on is look at the guys that are being successful early on. Now, Goff, it took him a bit. He was, only played a little bit last year, but he's really improved, right? Carson Wentz, right?
Yeah.
Playing well.
Wentz was good quickly. Okay. Now he's great.
And Deshaun Watson, who's coming out playing pretty well, even though he threw 17 interceptions as his last year at Clemson. What do they all do in college? They all played for a while. Okay?
Yeah.
Now, Mitch Trubisky, we don't know yet. He only started 13 games. Remember, Sam Darnold came onto the scene, and all of a sudden USC was this unbelievable locomotive last year, so now he gets a job, and there's struggle. There's a bit of a struggle going on. So you look at guys who have played for a while and have some experience of how they can pick up the NFL from experience in college. Does it matter or not? I think that comes into play. But again, you don't draft for the rookie year or the second year. You draft for 10. But boy, Wentz is certainly panning out. Goff, if Goff turns out to keep doing what he's doing, are you just fine that the rookie year you're going, oh my God, what the hell did we draft?
Of course.
Of course you are.
Yeah.
So
he started forever. He started games as a freshman at Cal. So look, Bill Parcells always said you don't draft a quarterback who didn't play 30 games in college. And 30.
That's exactly right. And then you wait on a guy from, in all honesty, the Big 12. We don't know what Mahomes is going to give you, and Mason Rudolph is going to be that big-armed guy, even though they were kept down some this weekend of, man, what do I do with this guy that can throw the ball all over the place? But Big 12 quarterbacks rarely have success in the NFL. Hey, everyone, Mike Golick here. Support for the Mike and Mike podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Chances are you're confident when it comes to your work, your hobbies, your life. Rocket Mortgage gives you that same level of confidence when it comes to buying a home or refinancing your existing home loan. Rocket Mortgage is simple, allowing you to fully understand all the details and be confident you're getting the right mortgage for you. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/Mikes. Equal housing lender, licensed in all 50 states, NMLS, consumeraccess.org number 3030.
Home isn't just a place, it's a feeling. Whether you're at home, your business, or online, ADT helps keep you safe. With security systems, home automation, alarms, and surveillance, so you can feel at home, wherever you are. Go to ADT.com to get that feeling. ADT. Home. Safe home.
Jeff Saturday is here. Nothing better than talking football on a Monday with Jeff Saturday. And a bunch of Jet fans are texting me. Not texting me is the word I'm looking for. Tweeting me. All
teasing kinds you was right.
Different. Sure the everyone else is teasing me, and the actual fans of the team are tweeting me different gifs of people crying and all that kind of stuff. And I have to admit, there was a moment yesterday I apologized to my son. We watched the end of that game, and he's sitting there, and I'm looking at the look on his face, and it's like looking into a 35-year-old mirror. Yep. Because I'm 35 years older than he is.
You did it to him.
And I did. I said to him, Stevie, I'm sorry. This has been happening my entire life, and it has done me no good whatsoever.
You could have parented that out of him at an early age. You could have, and you chose not to.
Misery loves company. That's in the Greeny household. Bring them all in. Devastate them early. Get them used to it.
But, I mean, that was brutal. That was just brutal.
Painful. I mean, hey, listen. I mean, what do you expect at this point? That's my only question for you. Is they're going to get you extremely excited, and then won't just let the air out.
Well, the season began with I want them to go 0-16.
Yeah, right.
And they win 3 straight games, and they're playing New England toe to toe. And I'm thinking, I'm embarrassed to admit, I said to my son this week, they could compete for a wild card this year. Let's get into this. And they're winning 28-14 in the fourth quarter yesterday.
Down a QB.
And then Matt Moore happened. Well, let me say this.
Yeah.
That sometimes a loss is actually a win. How in the world was Jay Cutler the quarterback of that team all year long as it was? He's been terrible. Their offense has been terrible. They're winning despite it. And they put Moore in there yesterday, and they look like an entirely different team.
There's no doubt. We were talking about it last night. And I got all kind of tweet hate because I was talking about the difference between Cutler and Matt Moore. Listen, Matt Moore took him to the playoffs last year.
Right.
This guy is fully capable of handling this team. That wasn't what Gase wanted. He thought bringing Cutler in was going to bring a different spark or something different to this team. But to your point, he comes in. He knows how to execute this offense. He's been with Gase. He understands what he wants from him. And the Miami Dolphin formula, think about the Falcons win and what this one's going to look like. Jay Ajayi, run the rock, play good defense. Don't ask the quarterback to win the game. But and it's not like I don't want this to sound like a management issue, because I don't like when the people talk about game management, right? Like, be realistic with what your players can do. You know you're going to go to Landry. Everybody knows you're going to go to Landry. That's where you're going to be. Let him make some big plays, but allow your offense to kind of come to you, and that's what he does. They end up coming back and getting the win. That's the formula for how this team should win, and Cutler wasn't really playing into that quite yet. They were trying to build him in. Again, bringing him off the street, it takes time.
Yeah, there were those that thought, just let Matt Moore have the job.
Right.
Let him be the guy, but when your head coach is not one of ththose guys, it usually doesn't work out that way. Now Moore will get the chance to show that he should stay in there, given the fact that this team, is sitting at a very healthy
right in there.
4-2 with
That's
everybody
right.
else. So along those lines,
Not everybody else.
well, no, not everybody else.
And they almost beat the Patriots with a bad call that you were ready to call your attorney about.
Oh,
just trying to
I
solve the
still
wounds
I still have litigation pending on that call, and now I'm actually considering filing suit against Josh McCown for the interception that he threw.
What was
at
that
the end of the
thought?
game yesterday? That's the worst pass in the history of the sport, right? I mean, I don't mean to overstate it. I know that sometimes people will suggest that I overreact to things, and look, he played a very good game yesterday.
He did. That's the worst. And listen, I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not going to say it was the worst, but it's got to be one, because I don't see when he throws it. I'm like, what? And as soon as you throw it,
Jeff,
that hurt.
If an 8-year-old quarterback threw that, you'd bench him. That's a 38-year-old quarterback
Jeff
throwing
coaches
that.
high school.
He go after the family. He's already said what he does to his baseball, U9 team. He's going after parents.
Jeff, I apologize, you and everybody out there, that we started off this football conversation.
You may go on now with other matters.
Let's more real about what you're seeing right now from the Saints or from the Falcons.
Oh, listen, I will say this about the Saints. The Saints, to me, have found a nice formula for what is going to work. You think about Drew Brees started out throwing 2 picks. It's not looking good. Everybody's kind of shaking. But what's happened since they sent Adrian to Arizona Cardinals? Right. Now Ingram and Kamara, both guys are playing physical style football. They're hitting the holes. They're running the ball extremely well, which is helping Breeze and this offense. But being able to stick to that, now their defense is actually looking like something that can hold and withstand. Because, again, you're not going 3 and out. Everything we can talk about, as good as Breeze is and their passing attack has been, when you struggle in the passing game, you leave your defense out on the field a ton of time. When you can run the ball, sustain drives, and that's what they're doing, and you're seeing how Ingram is running now. He is being physical. Kamara the same way. I'm excited about the Saints. Disappointed in the Falcons, but I'm buying more of the Saints right now. They're getting into some momentum, and it's looking good.
Saints ran the ball 36 times
for
161 yards. They controlled the ball for almost 37 minutes. Breeze threw it 38 times. So they ran it 36. Breeze threw it 38. Man, if they can do that. And that's what we thought. For those that thought the Peterson move would be good, maybe that running game will pick up and help out Breeze. Well, Peterson's gone, and I agree with you. What Kamara and Ingram are doing off of that and helping that pass defense is, and again, with the time of possession, then helping the defense.
And you think it helps your offensive line. We talk about this all the time with complementary football, what this really is. Run game doesn't have to get 5 yards a clip if you have Drew Brees. If you get 2 and 3, if you're 3rd and 5, that's pretty manageable as opposed to a 3rd and 8. I know it doesn't sound like a ton to people.
But
it's a huge difference in your play calling. You get to that 3rd and 5, 3rd and 4 look, it looks pretty good. I mean, and it's okay to be that. It doesn't always have to be a 5-yard carry and just mashing. Just keeping the defense honest helps a ton.
Mike and Mike, Jeff Saturday is in our studio here with the Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless, best phones, best networks, no contracts. Just looking around the league, and we live in a time now in football, and I think the offseason lack of work and things like that, or diminished work, makes it harder to figure teams out early in the season. So now maybe we're starting to figure out who really is what they are. What are the Patriots? Because you see them last night, and you just talked about Atlanta and what they aren't. Well, what are the Patriots? The narrative was, well, Brady can't keep this thing afloat by himself. He's 40 years old. The defense is miscommunication. They look terrible. They're one-dimensional on offense. All of a sudden last night, they run the ball 36 times. Brady is leading the league in passing yards at the age of 40, and their defense all of a sudden looks like they're communicating again. So what are the Patriots?
Yeah, listen, we talked about their defense a ton early in the season, but everybody everybody that I've spoken to all said the same thing. Give it time. Matt Patricia's going to get this thing right with Gilmore in the back. I mean, you got a lot of really talented guys. Malcolm Butler back there, who's had an up and down, kind of a roller coaster early in the year. But you knew ultimately they were going to sew that thing up on the backside. What that does is it allows your defense, the high tower on the edge, they're starting to set the edge better now. As we talked about early in the year, they were letting teams get to the outside. But you watch Tom Brady. I'm just going to be – Tom Brady threw some passes last night that looked like he was 25 years old. He threw some darts and had some spin on the ball that looked abnormal for a 40-plus-year-old man. I'm just going to tell you. And the placement of the ball, low and down where defenders can't just blast your receivers. It's not just even about the catch. It's about he's putting it where the receiver's either going to catch it, it's incomplete, but the receiver's not going to get decapitated, by a safety coming over the top, which we know the Falcons want to do. They have heavy hitters in the background. So as you're talking about what he did and the way he carried it, and listen, the quarterbacks get – listen, we have to look back at this thing because quarterbacks get a touchdown pass for these little pitches.
Yeah.
Forward,
This
little pitch. Yeah. And you know what I mean? I'm like, that's a little bit dirty. That O-line's working awfully hard to get that as a passing touchdown as opposed to a rushing touchdown. And again, all of these little shovel passes, little flicks forward, that whole thing, it hurts me a little bit. We need to review that because for me, that's run blocking at its best. And you see, the little plays at quarterbacks. Gronk did a great job getting out there, but give Tom credit.
Bitter O-lineman.
I mean, you know what I mean? Like, I'm watching every team in the league copy this thing. Everything's a little shovel passes and all this. Oh, quarterback's got 3 touchdowns. Come on, man.
What's even worse is when you're the center and I'm the D tackle and the quarterback falls down and I touch him and get the sack and it's your fault.
Absolutely. Yeah. I've given one up. I'm going to put that in my chart.
It's awesome.
Whoever races to touch him first as he's in the fetal position and no one's touched him, and that's my sack.
So what's the problem with that?
The one thing I will say is if the guy who touches him down touches him in the helmet, they're going to throw a 15.
That's true.
Oh, my word. That is a fact.
Especially if Walt Coleman's crew is doing the game, by the way. I don't know if they get paid by the flag, but it is the number of penalties that they called yesterday was so ridiculous that don't get me started again on that. Mike, I got to move off of this. Again, for the rest of the country just joining us, the league's request for a speedier hearing on the Zeke Elliott injunction has been turned down, so it won't be heard till October 30th. So we know he'll be eligible next week, and then next week they'll figure out about the following week. And the one thing I'd ask is, with everything else going on around the league right now, with the kneeling and everything else, why are they in such a rush with this? He will get suspended eventually. This thing will eventually get heard in court, and they'll eventually win. He's not about to retire. So if it lasts until next season, then it lasts until next season. What difference does it actually make?
I think from the league perspective, they have been beaten so often in the courts recently, especially as they're trying to make sure they're keeping their foot on the gas pedal. Whatever we can do, let's try to hurry it. Let's try to get this thing. So whatever other appeals, motions, whatever we can do, we can get them all done so that we can try to get them suspended in a year, as opposed to what we know happened with Deflategate, right? That whole next year it happens. I think that's their mentality.
Yeah,
just
I agree.
To get there.
I think this is just how it works in the courts. If something goes against you, you immediately file the next thing you're allowed to file, and you try and get it as soon as you can. But I'm with you. That'll take care of itself. Well, we'll see where it goes. On the field, when do we start? Is it now that we say the Rams are for real?
Yes.
They have a bye this week. They're atop the division. Then now they have 2 losses. They lost to Washington and to Seattle in L.A. So that was a bad loss there. Yeah. But number 3 offense, number 20 defense, but they are 4th in sacks with 23 sacks. They look really good right now. Can we legitimately say this team can win this division?
Oh yeah, I think as you look at them, what McVay has done with Goff has been extraordinary. I will say in 1 year, or not even 1 year, really, and just this small sample size. I think the way Goff is playing. If you watched him yesterday, and I don't just mean touchdowns. Right? I'm talking about the natural progression of a quarterback, being able to take his eyes off of his number 1 and throw the checkdowns out of the backfield, to throw it underneath, to take what's given there. I know we were talking as we were watching the game, there was a wheel route that he could have thrown. Instead, he throws it at 2nd and 3. Instead, he throws it over the middle, gets the first down. I'm like, man, the wheel's wide open.
Right.
But you can tell he's programmed. Get the first down, sustain the drive.
Right.
Those are the things that make quarterbacks really exceptional as they progress in their careers. Now you got Gurley and the way they're rushing the ball. That thing is complementing the way he is. And to your point, Wade Phillips is a fantastic defensive coordinator, even though they're ranked 20th, like you said, on the sacks. they'll continue to get better. And let's not forget Aaron Donald with the holdout and him not being there. As he gets back more into the rhythm of everything, this defense playing with a lead, when you can get sacks, once you get that lead, it is a nightmare for offensive linemen because you are behind the 8 ball. You can't get out of your own way when people can come and effectively get after your QB because they jump on the lead. That was the story of my career in Indy. Play with a lead, let Robert Mathis, Dwight Freeney come off the edge. The Rams have that same mentality. Let's jump on that lead and make it happen. It is a thing that's been interesting for me to watch, and it's progressively getting better each week.
We're Mike and Mike. All your Twitter reaction comes through the 1-800-Flowers.com Twitter feed. Nothing makes up for a football obsession like bouquets from 1-800-Flowers.com. When you order a dozen red or assorted roses for only $29.99, you get another dozen plus a vase absolutely free. So go to 1-800-Flowers.com/ESPN. There's 2 tweets here I want to read to you guys. Josh Lee tweets at us, Eli isn't the problem. The Giants should have drafted Tunsil and addressed the O-line. The head coach and the O-line are garbage. That's Josh Lee's perspective, not ours.
Listen, I just highlighted the O-line last week. They actually played pretty well, right. I thought, especially some of the trap plays and the running plays and protected a little bit better. I think their O-line is a struggle, without question. With Darkwa, maybe they're getting the running game going a little more. I don't know how consistent that's going to get. Eli Manning isn't the problem. He's not playing well, and he's getting up there in age. So you just wonder when they're going to revamp. They spent a lot of money on the defense. It certainly seemed to be working at times because that defense looks really good at times, no doubt about it. But you just wonder where they are in the process of building back to a championship if Eli's still going to be that guy.
Yeah, listen, the defense is exceptional. They I think they had 9 plays yesterday on the goal line where they stopped Seattle, held strong. I mean, they're playing good enough to win, like you said. But the offense as a whole is so limited now. No receivers to throw to. I mean, even when they win, they only threw it to receivers twice.
Yep. Ingram, the tight ends, get most of the work there.
That's not going to sustain for wins. It's just not going to happen. Whether you blame it on Eli or whoever else, the O-line needed to be addressed. It wasn't. They're just not good enough.
I wanted to read this one quickly, too. Jim, talking about the Browns, tweets, Deshaun Kaiser needed to be on a team with a veteran quarterback so he could watch and learn. Forgetting even if you were going to put him out there to play, but the backups there are Kessler and Hogan, who have also basically, for all intents and purposes, no experience. So the idea that they didn't keep some 35-year-old there to sort of mentor him, do you think that was a mistake?
Absolutely. And I think it's a mistake to keep pulling them. I mean, Hugh Jackson's got to make a decision and stick with it. I'm just telling you right now, no one on this football team, this is a team that you're trying to develop, is getting better when you keep benching and flipping and benching. No one gets better because no one finds timing. No one finds that rhythm of a football team. Hugh's got to say, hey, this is my guy. Win, lose, or draw. Let's Peyton Manning threw 26 interceptions his rookie year, too. If he's your guy, you better ride with him.
It's really well done. Jeff Saturday, every Monday with us here. Thank you. You'll see him all over TV all day long. Booger's on the way. James Franklin the next hour, too. Stay there. Mike and Mike.
Computer, execute 12.4p operation.
Optimizing algorithm. Running encryption packet alpha. Night. Oh, I don't feel so good.
What is it, computer?
Is it hot in here? It feels hot in here. I feel a little clammy. I should lie down or something.
A computer with a virus? Surprising. What's not surprising? How much you could save by switching to Geico.
Those oysters Rockefeller were a mistake.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or